All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to be talking to you today. It is Friday. It's a free-for-all, and I'm back after more than a week's absence, I guess you'd say that, because the last program I did was a week ago yesterday. So I missed a total of, I guess, 5 shows, right? Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that was not the plan. The plan was I would be off last Friday and then Monday as I traveled to California, my old stomping grounds, Monterey, beautiful, had a great time, loved it. But I also got a cold while I was there. You can hear it, still have a bit of a sore throat. And these colds for me, some people I think have, I don't know, I don't want to say have a weak constitution. I'm going to take a lot, but I do get 2 colds a year, something like that. And when I do, they do hit me pretty hard. I think harder than some folks. And especially the throat was the problem. So even though I've been feeling better the past couple days, I decided to take them off for fear that I would come on the air and I might get a coughing jag. And that obviously doesn't sound good. Nobody wants to hear me coughing and hacking. I'll try to do an hour. I can't promise that'll happen, and it may not. There's a good chance it won't. But I'm looking forward to talking today. 240-242-5646 if you want to give me a little help if I'm struggling here, if you think you've got something to contribute, and I'm sure you do, please do give me a call. So always tell folks, please do subscribe. Yeah, click that blue and white square bottom right of your screen if you're watching on YouTube. Do hope that you'll check us out on YouTube, even if you're watching on any other platform. Most likely it would be the Facebook Halitics page or my homepage. But I do urge folks, if they get a chance, if they want to see the whole catalog of Halitics, and to subscribe, to do that at YouTube at Halitics, because that way we get our numbers up. We have one central place for Halitics, and hopefully we'll get to that magical number. I think it's 500. I just need 500 subscribers, so I need another 88, something in that range to get to monetization. Seems like such a small number, should be able to get there, but it has been more of a struggle than I frankly anticipated. But I love doing this. This is what I want to do. I'm going to keep doing it. We will center, as we have had to center for years now, well over 2 years since Israel began in earnest the genocide in Gaza. It had been persecuting, oppressing, incarcerating, mistreating, use whatever term you want, Palestinians for decades and decades. But just the outright slaughter of the Palestinian people really began in earnest in Gaza in the wake of the music festival attack on October, was it 7th, 2023. And although there was sort of a Trump-inspired or urged quasi-ceasefire, it was never a real ceasefire. And you can see Israel in complete control. Resumes, it's saying it's resuming a ceasefire. Well, we killed a whole lot of you, and now we're going to stop killing you for a while until we decide to kill more of you. I guess that's kind of a ceasefire in a way. I told you from the beginning, I didn't give Trump credit for this because I didn't believe it was a legit ceasefire. It didn't believe it was a legit beginning of the end of the killing of the people of Gaza. And we're also seeing, of course, more and more oppression, more and more land theft on the West Bank as well by Israel. So I just don't have reason for hope. It's an incredibly depressing, awful thing to have happen, and to watch it happen, and to see my nation, my country, which for all its sins, and they are legion and multifarious, you don't want your country to be part of that. I mean, I don't know how anyone would. I guess some folks do. I don't get that. There's my oval. I just want to make sure you see it. Halitics 240-242-5646 to join us. This is not the only genocide. There's in Africa as well, in Sudan, it's really heating up there as well. The killing, it just hasn't really stopped. And we'll talk very, very briefly. Frankly, I confess ignorance. I haven't followed it nearly to the same degree as and what's happening in north. I guess it's north, central, east Africa, if you want to say that's where the Sudan is. Also, a lot of killing in Kenya, which is sort of a democracy, or we thought of it as a democracy, but in the wake of elections, there are hundreds killed. So very, very, very bad news globally, certainly when it comes to genocide. Very, very tragic. And at some point, I really do need to do a show on Sudan and have an expert who can educate me, because I need to be educated. We do know that, at least when it comes to Israel, there's a lot of complaints. The media is biased. It focuses on Israel's crimes. It focuses on Israel's atrocities. Of course, here at Halitics, we have made the point it's just the opposite. Israel seems to get a pass from most American media, despite the fact that the United States is hand in glove with the Netanyahu regime. But here, Matt Friedman, according to what a shock there, the American Jewish Congress there, or American Jewish Committee, I think it used to be called American Jewish Congress, now American Jewish Committee, Matt Friedman exposing the media bias against Israel. I guess we didn't know that from watching CNN with Dana Bash and Jake Tapper and former, I think, former Jerusalem Post correspondent Wolf Blitzer. I didn't realize they were also anti-Semitic, but I guess Matt Friedman says they are. There's just this inveterate focus on Israel's crimes. So I just noticed the Al Jazeera, right? If there was any media that you would say was going to be biased against Israel, it'd have to be Al Jazeera. It's Arabic, and it's published in Arabic as well as in English. I guess the journalists tend to be from Arab countries and Muslims. So if anyone would be angry at Israel, would have a real animus towards Israel, you'd think it would be Al Jazeera. So this is today's, homepage for Al Jazeera, and I actually did a screenshot from my whole computer because I wanted you to see it. I wanted you to, just confirm that this is today, and that I can see it. I'll put it right there. You see it's October 31st, Halloween. Happy Halloween, about 3 hours ago, 9:16 East Coast time. And you can see they certainly are talking about Israel there. Israel returns bodies of Palestinians to Gaza. Some show signs of torture. Wow. To me, that's news. I don't think that's anti-Israel bias to just simply describe that the hostages that Israel's held, that far many more hostages Israel was holding than Hamas in Gaza, but they were tortured. And we know, by the way, that Israel's been torturing children, been incarcerating children, people under 17 and under, for decades. So this is nothing new for Israel, but there they are focusing on it. You see that mushroom cloud rising over, I guess, Gaza City in the background. So more bombing by Israel, despite their claim that there's a ceasefire. But are they, Al Jazeera, are they short shrifting the genocide in Africa? Are they ignoring the failure to be able to hold free elections? By the way, I said Kenya got it wrong. Tanzania, which I also thought was a democracy, where post-election protests led to hundreds slaughtered, hundreds killed. But no, you can see I actually circled the headlines there, right there on the front page, right there on the homepage. This is what Al Jazeera is featuring. So clearly they are not. They are not singling out unfairly Israel, at least not in this edition. And it's interesting. It's ironic almost, because Israel, the Jewish state, you would think that a Muslim, they're not Muslim. They're just Al Jazeera. They're a news agency that is centered on the Arab world in the Middle East. But many Muslim journalists, obviously, you would think they would be, particular because we all know how much Muslims hate Jews and want to kill them and all that. You think they would be focusing on Israel and Israel's crimes, or alleged crimes, if you don't believe the lamestream media. But no, they're real clear here. Look, Tanzania post-election protests. There you see the fires. No mercy. Sudan soldier tells of escape from RSF slaughter. So that's the Sudan genocide that's been heating up. And you even see below that, I didn't circle it or highlight it, but UN Human Rights Chief says U.S. strikes on alleged drug boats unacceptable. Obviously, just blowing people up in the high seas illegally, that is your Trump administration. So again, real tough times, bad times, no media bias that we're seeing, even in Arab media against Israel, just covering the news. In American media, you don't learn what Israel's doing. You have to really hunt around for it. It's not front and center, but it is the worst thing happening in the world right now, in my view, even worse than what's happening in Sudan. And that's bad. But this is worse. This is a first world nation that has actually systemically eliminating an entire group of people. I don't think it's quite the same as in Sudan, where tribes are killing people. There is ethnic cleansing, but it's not in the systemic way we're seeing. Well, you hear that cough, so that may be my signal to go to the video. So I'm going to play this video. I would like to interrupt it a little bit. This is Cenk fighting with Katie Miller, Stephen Miller, the border czar's wife. She is, I believe, Israeli. Not certain about that. Well, let's play this clip.
And it's so hilarious. You want to be specific with your words? Because Mamdani, hold on, let me finish. Hold on, let me finish. So let me finish.
All right, so I'm going to stop it there, because this was a debate on Piers Morgan. You have the two men on the right who are more critical of Israel, pro-Mamdani, and then you have the two women on the left, with Morgan to the far left, Jillian Michaels, who's a Zionist, and to her, as she faces you, to her left, between her and Cenk, Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's wife, who's an ardent Zionist, and both of them, especially Miller, not so much Michaels, alleging anti-Semitism at every opportunity. Now, this discussion here has gotten a lot of media. It's gotten a lot of left media, a lot of left space, YouTubers excited about Cenk and how well he handled it. I did not think he handled this well at all. I think he almost made Katie Miller seem somewhat sympathetic, interrupting her, speaking over her loudly. And then when he had a great opportunity to really take advantage of what I believe was a mistake by her in the debate, in the discussion over whether Mamdani is anti-Semitic, whether the whole argument is whether Zoran Mamdani is anti-Semitic, whether he should be mayor of New York, whether he's too unfairly critical of Israel. That's the discussion. And you wouldn't really get much of it from that shout fest. But let's play some more here.
Now they go, okay, even though Mamdani has never said anything anti-Semitic, nothing against Jews, and even though the majority of Jews, according to polling, are supporting Mamdani, 67% of young...
By the way, I don't believe that's quite accurate. The polling suggests that about 45% of Jews and well over 50% of religious Jews actually support Cuomo. So the Jewish New York vote has not been as progressive as we would have liked to have seen. But Cenk, they are talking overtly about Jewish New Yorkers and saying they are not buying into the rhetoric that that Mamdani is anti-Semitic. So let's keep playing that.
In New York, that's under 45 are supporting Mamdani. We're going to lie anyway, and we're going to say, you know what? He's a dirty Muslim, and you should hate him for supporting Muslims. And that's what almost all of the Israeli supporters are doing, almost all of mainstream media, and that sick, disgusting Andrew Cuomo, who's as bigoted as it gets.
So I think, his language was a little strong. It was a little bit embellishing. I mean, I think you can justify what Cenk said, but with the vehemence that he spoke, I don't think the anti-Mamdani forces are quite as crude as he's suggesting. They're bad, Sid Rosenberg, when he said, oh my God, if Mamdani were president during 9/11, we'd have another one, and this, that, and other nonsense like that. Randy Fine, the congressman from Florida, wanting to deport him. That was played earlier. Yeah, there's some really bad stuff out there, but it's not quite, I think, the way Cenk describes it, which makes him more easy to caricature. So I wasn't thrilled with his framing there, and especially because he kept talking over Katie Miller and interrupting her.
Why is it that every time someone wants to criticize Mamdani, it immediately comes back to the Jews and the anti-Israel movement?
So I'm going to stop it right there. So her response is right away, well, hey, we've said that some of the things that Mamdani has said are anti-Semitic, are unfair, and we don't like it. And now you're just saying, oh, it's all the Jews. It's all the Jews. That's also misrepresenting Cenk, but it's understandable how she could kind of claim that.
Actually talking about his viewpoints, which is that
Nobody
he wants to
said
make
Jews.
So he says nobody said Jews. He actually did. He just said, hey, Jews are supporting Mamdani. So actually, Cenk did say the Jews are supporting Mamdani.
Said it. You always do that. We say Israel, you say Jews.
Now, so he cut her off right there. He didn't give her any room to speak. Now, again, I don't like Katie Miller. I can't stand her. I can't stand her husband. She's completely lying about Mamdani. He's not anti-Semitic. He is not a threat to the Jewish population. The threat is Israel. That is the genocidal state. But the way Cenk is arguing with her is making her seem sympathetic. That's the problem. And no one seems to get this in their encomiums to Uygur.
We say Israel is a government. Please don't make it about Jewish Americans. And you come back and go, you have to make it about Jewish.
So now she says here, is Israel a Jewish state? So her argument is, hey, Israel's a Jewish state. If you're going to criticize Israel, if Mamdani is going to criticize Israel, this is her argument. Hey, is Israel a Jewish state? Well, if it is, and Mamdani criticizes Israel, then isn't he criticizing Jews? That's what she's saying. So let's listen to what Uygur's response is. Now, this was, to me, an opening so great, you drive a truck right through it. When she says, is Israel a Jewish state? I would say, it certainly claims to be. It certainly says it is. So anytime you criticize it, they can say that you're being anti-Semitic. And what you're doing when you say you're the Jewish state is you're indicting every single Jew in Israel's crimes. Israel's genocide, which is unquestionably happening, Katie Miller, is now imputed by Israel to every single Jew. So if you have a problem with anti-Semitism, talk to Israel. That would be the response right there. Cenk misses it. I don't know why. He misses that.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
So then he says, is Israel Jewish? She says it over. Is Israel Jewish? What is wrong with you? That's like gold. Uygur, that's gold when she says, is it a Jewish state? Yes, they say they are. So therefore, that must mean you say it's Jewish, right? Katie Miller, you say it's a Jewish state. So are Jews genocidal? If Israel's genocidal, which it is, then does that mean all Jews are? That's what you're saying, Katie Miller.
With you.
Is Israel a Jewish state? Yes or no?
Yeah. First of all, okay, so Saudi Arabia is a Muslim state, and you can criticize it all day long. There's no special.
And then he brings us, well, Saudi Arabia is an Arab state, a Muslim state. You know, that is really bad when he does that. That really hurts the cause. Because you're saying, well, yeah, both Muslims and Jews have bad countries. No, you don't want to say that. Saudi Arabia is not viewed by Muslims, at least not to my understanding. I mean, there's Muslim, either the most populous by far. Indonesia has far more Muslims, for example, than does Saudi Arabia. So when you do that, Cenk, you know, Saudi Arabia is a tyranny. Saudi Arabia is authoritarian. Saudi Arabia is not a state. I don't believe that Muslims embrace and say, oh, that's our country, the way so many Jewish people embrace Israel and say that that is our country, that is the land, our promised land. People don't say that about Saudi Arabia. Muslims don't say it. They're not analogous. It was a very, very bad choice by Uygur to throw Saudi Arabia into that mix. He should say, yeah, you're absolutely right. Israel is the Jewish state. And that's because it calls itself that. It proudly embraces itself as the representative country of the Jews. And many, many Jews accept that and claim that too. So doesn't that make Jews complicit in Israel's crimes? That would be my argument. If you don't want people to be anti-Semitic as you see it, then you need to distance yourself from Israel or tell Israel to stop killing Palestinians because they're Palestinian.
What you're doing is you're decoding language
anyone that
to
calls
attack
themselves
American
a Jewish state or a
and to say
Muslim
that we
state.
should not be here and we should not be in existence, and that you would be happy for other people like
Nonsense.
Mandami to use
No,
it.
I want Israel.
Well, and then she says we shouldn't be in existence. You can say, no, there should not be a ethno state, a theocratic state, a religious state. No, you're absolutely right. That would have been a much more effective way to respond. Instead, it comes down to personalities, and I thought that was a actually very poor performance, but it struck me. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because, again, when Israelis, when Jews, when Zionists embrace Israel as the Jewish state, I think that's an opportunity for those of us who are so critical of Israel to say, when you do that, you're justifying anti-Semitism. You're saying that what Israel's doing, because you're claiming it's the Jewish state, is what Jews do. And I'm Jewish, and I renounce Israel. I renounce its evil ways. But you're saying, no, we're all complicit in Israel's crimes. Well, somebody who hates what Israel's doing, someone who's a victim of Israel, whose family has been killed by Israel, who was made an orphan by Israel, who lost their children because of Israel, they're going to hate Jews because you're saying Israel's a Jewish state. Isn't that right? All right, yeah, I'm working myself up, and that's bad because I got my cold, and it's awful. So let me keep moving along because I'm going to probably cut this program a little bit short. But that's not the only story. Now, we've got this shutdown going on right now, and we see senators head home with funding for food stamps about to run out. So for me, honestly, I've been people point out, well, you're privileged, hell, and you talk about this and you talk about that. You don't really understand what it's like for real people out there, for everyday people. And I plead guilty. I really don't. But I can imagine if you depend on the government, I think that 40 million people get SNAP. Maybe it's a lot more. 40 million families get SNAP. This is really bad. We have to create an economy where you work, you make enough to feed a family. You should not require supplemental nutrition programs. You just shouldn't. Supplemental nutrition assistance programs. You shouldn't need that. We don't have that economy because the gratin at the top have just skimmed off so much of the cream for themselves. And so there's just a little bit of thin skim milk for everybody else. That's not the way the economy should work. Government has failed poor Australian working people. That's why so many are on SNAP. And it will fail them again. The Republican government will fail them again by not passing a somewhat humane budget, a budget that does at least maintain, which far insufficient Medicare, Medicaid levels, but the drastic cuts so that Trump could slash the taxes on his billionaire buddies and himself, most importantly for himself. That's just obscene. It's just wrong. And here's Trump's response. GOP should abolish the filibuster to end the shutdown. Now, I guess I can be accused of hypocrisy. I thought, on balance, I don't remember if I talked much about this. I've always been of two minds of the filibuster. I do worry always, especially about, well, either side having complete control. The filibuster does seem like a pretty good check. On the other hand, when you want positive legislation, we want good legislation passed, it can also prevent it. So, Trump is now saying, no, let's end the shutdown and the filibuster rule, which isn't going to happen. Apparently, the Republicans are dead set in support of it. They love the filibuster because they've been able to prevent Democrats from doing anything much for the people. So at this point, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I think there's another reason, though, that the Republicans are reluctant to eliminate the filibuster. It's not just that they're afraid what will happen if Democrats return to power, which may never happen, may not happen. Right? It doesn't look, given the gerrymandering that Republicans are doing, given the potential for some kind of shenanigans in the election next year, I'm very concerned about free and fair elections. So I think part of it is Republicans may be afraid that they could lose the majority, although that doesn't look likely, and would be unable to stop a simple majority of Democrats from passing bills. That may be part of the reason that John Thune and other Republican senators are against eliminating the filibuster rule. But the other reason, I think, is that they're not really thrilled with this budget. They don't love the Trump budget. They do want to see some reinstatement of the Medicare and Medicaid funding that was slashed. So they may secretly want to see some kind of compromise with the Democrats. And so that's why they don't want to just simply run roughshod over the Democrat minority at this point. And the reason why they want to see some reinstatement of those funds, two reasons. One, because it reduces the burden on their states. For example, Louisiana says they're going to make up the SNAP as long as they can. I mean, Louisiana is a dead red state. It's a very poor state. So it relies very heavily on federal assistance for its poor population. Now, it could leave those people out to dry, but, that will cause more unrest, civil unrest. There are a lot of actually Republican voters, obviously, who get SNAP. I don't even know that the majority of SNAP recipients are necessarily Democratic, especially in a state like Louisiana. So, and also the Medicaid, right? The Medicaid and Medicare, so many of them are Republicans, recipients of those programs. So the Southern Republicans, the Republicans from poor states, may actually want secretly to have funding restored for some of these social programs that were slashed. That may be the other reason, not because they necessarily care about those programs, not because they care about the poor people, but because for political reasons, it's not to their advantage to have the Trump budgets that just absolutely gutted and rented what little was left of the safety net. So that may be another reason I think Republicans are loath to simply eliminate the filibuster. We'll see. And Trump, of course, doesn't see any room for him to negotiate. He's not going to cut any deals. He's not going to work with people. He's just saying, you're going to do what I want, which is, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid to the bone. And if poor people don't get food. Now, he did say he was going to see that the SNAP was restored. I don't know how he's going to do that. But Trump is simply not. And part of it is just, I think, ego and narcissism. He can't bear the thought of losing a battle. That may be part of it as well. But this is also goes to the Democratic failure, because Democrats have never themselves avoided picking at Trump, making fun of Trump, mocking him, shaming him, rather than trying to work with him. Now, it's true that Schumer caved to Trump in March. You got to fight this guy. You got to stand up to him. But there are ways of doing that that's effective, where you smooth them down. You say, we understand where you're going, President Trump. Yeah, you had a good win. We understand you have a mandate, but we also recognize that you have concern for poor, struggling, working class Americans, and your budget will hurt them in these ways. You talk to them that way, maybe you get something out of it. But that's not the way any Democrats talk about Trump or talk to Trump, and it's a mistake. They hurt. They hurt the people. They hurt the constituents. But they don't want, just like the Republicans often don't want compromises. In this case, they probably do, because they know their budget goes too far to hurt people. But Democrats would much rather have it be a binary choice, A or B, rather than trying to work together with Republicans to at least come up with some common sense solutions, which could have been done, by the way, in Ukraine, and possibly could have been done with Israel as well. Maybe that would have been a bridge too far. Critical food aid for tens of millions of Americans slated to end over the weekend. The White House also sought to highlight the stress that the shutdown is putting on air traffic controllers by convening a roundtable of airline industry reps and union leaders. And I highlight that because I was flying last week, and yeah, a lot of delays in San Francisco, for example, and there are always delays. I mean, it's not like it never happens, but it seemed worse. It seemed worse when I was traveling. And I was thinking about this, in terms of that privilege issue. And no, I don't get SNAP. And it's not an issue for me. And so people say, well, you're privileged, you fly. Rich people fly. A lot of middle class people fly. A lot of business people fly. Look, you don't want airplanes falling out of the skies. I mean, that's something we don't want either. That would be a terrible tragedy. And obviously hundreds of people will die and plane crashes. So these are real risks. And we've seen that. We've seen that happen. So these are real risks that are resulting from the shutdown. But Trump's solution, of course, is just to jam a really terrible, terrible budget down the nation's throat, which even many Republicans aren't happy with, rather than come up with some common sense solutions. I think that, we'll see what the results are Tuesday, but if you see a blue sweep, right, with Mamdani winning big in New York, hopefully over 50% of the vote, that's what I think would be necessary for for a big wave, that really shows the Republican Party is not popular, is not what people want, is Mamdani getting over 50%. Because, look, let's face it, Sliwa Cuomo is the Republican ticket right now. Sliwa Cuomo is the Republican ticket. If they together can cobble more than 50% of the vote, looks pretty obvious now that Mamdani will be the next mayor, but they can cobble together 50% plus one of the vote, then Trump will claim victory. He'll just say, well, because of the vagaries of the election law and first past the post and this and that. Now, I reject that because I don't think either Mamdani, I don't think either Cuomo or Sliwa in a mano a mano against Mamdani would get over 50%. I think Mamdani would be either one. And the polls seem to pretty strongly suggest that. A lot of Sliwa voters would not vote for Cuomo. Now, I don't know how many would vote for Mamdani. Probably some would. More would vote for Cuomo. Many will just stay on the couch. And I would venture even there are many Cuomo voters who would not vote for Sliwa, would more likely vote for Mamdani. So you have that situation where Mamdani would win regardless, but for him to get over 50% would be psychically very powerful. If he wins, if Cheryl wins Mikey Sherrill wins in New Jersey, and if Abigail Spanberger wins in Virginia, and they all win by pretty good, comfortable margins, I think Trump may look at that and say, yeah, maybe I got to do a little wheeling and dealing. We'll see. That would be a hope. 240-242-5646 if you want to join me. We'd love to talk to you. I've not checked, by the way. I guess I should see if there's anybody commenting. I don't see. Let me look at this now. I'm going to close that and see. I don't want to get don't see comments yet. People may not realize that I'm back, so that would be interesting if that's part of the reason they're not commenting. And I've got my thing right here. I'm going to try to look at my live chat and also get my microphone. I'm going to just adjust it real quick. Actually, I'll do that in a moment. So we've got a lot of issues going on with the shutdown. The election's coming up. We'll talk about the elections in just a moment. From the Hill, though, real quick, GOP, as I mentioned the filibuster is not going to, it doesn't look like it. This is from today's Hill. GOP senator, one senator, I believe, from New Jersey, not New Jersey, Utah, saying, no, there's not going to be any change in the filibuster rule. It looks like John Thune who's the Senate Majority Leader now, is adamant that he's not going to change that rule. And I think the reasons are, as I stated. One is they are a little bit afraid that Democrats at some point will get a majority back and vote in legislation they don't like. And I think also they'll filibuster from the businesses love, because businesses like business as usual, things staying the same, nothing radical. We just keep going down the same road we're going, moving it to the right a little bit more tax cuts, a little bit less regulations, but nothing radical, nothing revolutionary. That's what business is like, and the filibuster certainly promotes that kind of governance. All right, let's get to Harry Enton. Harry Enton, I thought, did a real good job. This is really good. He's very entertaining. He does a nice job on CNN. He's not just a kind of a button-down, standard issue, clean. He's got a little bit of fuzz on his face and all that. And I think he makes these broadcasts a little bit fun when so often they're not. So Harry Enton, who's the kind of the new CNN election guru, they used to have that guy. They still have him on, David Chalian, and he does do some comment. He does do some commentary and analysis during elections, but they've definitely decided to highlight Harry more than Chalian, which to me was a really smart decision. Not that I don't even mind David Chalian. I think he does a good job, but I think Harry is better. So let's go to the video. Here we go.
Polling suggests that this race is simply put not close at all. I know there are a lot of people on Twitter, a lot of Cuomo fans who think that this race is closing. I want what they're having, because if we take a look at the choice for New York City mayor, look, back in September, Mamdani was ahead by 15 points by aggregate polls, 45 to 30%. You jump to now, it's basically the same story. If nothing else, Mamdani might have actually gained a point or two. Mamdani closing in on that 50% mark, 48%. You see Cuomo here at 31%. At this particular point, and we're getting close to where this particular point is Election Day, this race is simply put not close at all.
There's been talk about, older voters coming out and that was going to change things because he has such huge support from younger voters. What are you seeing on that?
Okay, yeah. So
I wanted to stop here for a sec because I decided to play this video because a lot of the concerns I've had, a lot of the thoughts I've had are addressed by Enton on this video, which I think was broadcast this morning, first at 8:30. Maybe it was yesterday. I think it was this morning. A couple of polls dropped yesterday that were very positive for Mamdani, which showed his lead expanding as opposed to earlier polls in the week that showed a slight contraction. And so she's addressing that, and she's saying, hey, what about the talk of the early voting that might favor Cuomo, right? That there are more older voters. And I had read that. I was concerned about that. He says, hey, the polls have now expanded for Mamdani in terms of the gap for Mamdani's expanded. That's as a result, those latest polls, the Emerson poll and the Marist poll, which are high quality polls, showing a widening gap. So you see that on the screen there. But then the host there, I don't know her name, says, yeah, but what about the fact that we've got older voters who are voting early? Is that a problem? So Harry addresses that here.
What could cause the polls to possibly be wrong? Well, maybe they're mismodeling the electorate. What Cuomo wants is a surge of older voters and younger voters to make up a lower percentage of the electorate than the polls suggest. Is that happening so far? Well, take a look here. The 2025 New York City electorate under age 45. If you look at Marist, they're projecting among all likely voters that it's going to be 38%. What do we see in the early vote so far? It's basically the same percentage. We see him making up 36%. And I will note that the overall vote is usually a little bit younger than the early vote suggests. So this number is likely to climb a little bit and probably match this number. What we're seeing right now is it does seem to me that the pollsters are modeling the electorate correctly. They are getting that age divide right, which of course is very good news for Zohran Mamdani, because obviously those under the age of 45 very much support his campaign. Those older support Cuomo. And at this point, those under 45 are being modeled, it seems to me, correctly by the pollsters.
Yeah, there's always been this push to get younger people to vote, and now it is happening, and they are going.
All right, so I'm going to stop it there. So that's an interesting, but first of all, I thought it was really, I really appreciate him pointing that out, that, hey, yeah, the early vote so far does show a slightly fewer younger voters than the final, but that's actually understood to be the case, that actually younger voters are more likely to vote on election day than older voters. So he's saying, hey, the modeling looks exactly right. The polls that say that Mamdani's got this in the bag, maybe get over 50%, looks like they're spot on. And then she says, hey, we always want more younger voters, right? Isn't that what Democrats always say? They want the younger voters. And now you got one, and you got a candidate here that Hakeem Jeffries, barely in the most kind of, I guess, weak-willed, weak-kneed, pathetic endorsement endorsed. He did endorse him, and I think that endorsement bespeaks his recognition that Mamdani was going to win. But it was really, really pathetic. You've got a Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer who will not endorse Mamdani, even though Mamdani will be the mayor of his city. It's really bad. The Democrats are really, really bad. On Monday, we'll have Carlos on, left-handed leftist. We'll talk about Graham Plattner, another progressive Democrat. The Democrats just want to destroy. They want to crush him like a bug. They're not able to do it. we'll talk about that as well. More from Harry, though. I really found this entertaining. Plus, because of my throat, I don't want to talk too much.
A much higher percentage of younger voters than 4 years ago.
Is there any precedent, though, for this, for any New York City mayoral candidate to surpass expectations compared to the polling?
Yeah, okay. So the question is, right, are the Cuomo folks living in a fantasy land, the fans of Cuomo living in a fantasy land, that maybe they can overcome this large polling lead for Zohran Mamdani? Well, at this particular point, it to me suggests no, based upon history. They are living in a bit of a fantasy land if you think you're going to be overcoming the polling. Why? Mamdani leads by 17 points right now. I look back at all of the final polling dating all the way back since 1989. The largest final polling average error was 11 points in 2005. 11 points is way less than 17 points. So at this point, it would take something unprecedented, at least in the last 36 years of New York City mayoral races, for Andrew Cuomo to overcome Mamdani's lead. Mamdani has the ball. It looks like he's running right for the end zone with no tacklers in front of him.
I saw all these things. You did the jumping and the Heisman. Like, you're on it today.
I feel, you know, I will tell you, maybe I'll dress up. I'm feeling the Halloween spirit. Maybe I'll dress up.
We know you will.
So I really like that stuff. I think that's good. Like, make it a little bit fun. Why not? That's what they did there. That's what TV, you got the back and forth, you got the set, you got the clothes. Go ahead, make it a little bit enjoyable. And I don't know about CNN's ratings or anything, but that was, I don't think, very good. Just a couple of other quick data points just to confirm what Harry said. Not that you probably need me to, but I thought this was kind of interesting, and it's going to segue into my next segment. So back, well, let's see right now. Let's, it did narrow for a moment, but right now you see on Polymarket, this is today, Mamdani has a 95% chance to win, 19 times that of Cuomo, according to those numbers that Harry Anton just recounted. That's pretty dramatic. And if you compare that to where we were a week ago, you can see that, in fact, it's even a bigger lead for Mamdani today. So it was 6% chance, 94% Mamdani, 6% Cuomo, now 95.5. That's why N said, hey, I want what you're smoking if you think things are getting better for Andrew Cuomo. I thought they were. It did look like it. There were a couple of polls. He's cut the lead to 10, and these old folks, these old farts are going out to vote. People who look like me need help getting up the stairs to the voting booth. They're the ones who are going to vote for Cuomo, no question about it. But looks like that was just sort of overblown and wishful thinking, not reality. Interestingly, I was surprised to see this, and I made the point, hey, Jeffries endorsed Mamdani, vote for him anyway, right? Now, I'm concerned. I don't think Mamdani's all that in a bag of chips. I really don't. I have concerns about him. I really do. But I still want him to win. I think he's clearly better than Cuomo. I think he's about the most exciting candidate we've seen in the Democratic Party in a while. I hope he'll be progressive. I hope he'll truly take on the billionaire elites. I won't say he'll win. But, there are some people I don't like who support him. Bill Kristol said he would vote for Mamdani. Now, Kristol's a neocon. Kristol was as much responsible as anybody for the war on the people of Iraq, for example, part of the PNAC group. He says the idea of going back to Cuomo is ridiculous, and he's correct. And then he makes this point. All these big shot finance types couldn't get behind anyone except for Cuomo. It's pathetic, in my opinion. So they're not special, those finance people. They're just greedy. They're just selfish. They're just destructive, and they've done terrible harm to the state of New York. We see the polls, and I made this point with the left-hand leftists actually it'll be 2 weeks come this Monday, that I was really pretty offended by the fact that our old group, Our Revolution, was fundraising off of the Mamdani campaign, claiming that it was a close race. So now they're saying, oh my God, Cuomo says Mamdani could kill New York. You better give us money to help elect him. I just think that's very shameless. You're going to people many of whom don't have a lot of money. You're trying to fundraise, claiming this election is super close. It's not. I don't like that. We got a ton of emails. You can see this practically every day. Progressives really, really, really like Zoran. They really want him to win. A lot of progressive Democrats, they can't stand, and rightly so, Schumer. They can't stand Jeffries. But this is not, if you want to help Zoran, make phone calls for him. That's what you need to do. And I know what our revolution would say. Well, your money will help make calls for Zoran. Okay, but don't act like this is a close race. Don't act like there's real, right now it's a toss-up. It's not. And I do have a real problem with that because you're trying to raise money from people, again, many of whom who don't have a lot of money. And the money goes to pay the salaries of the Our Revolution people. I'm not good with that. I really, if you give money to an organization, really do your homework. Make sure they really are doing good. It's not just that you like their politics. It's that the work they're doing is needed. It's helpful. And I have a problem when candidates do this too. A big problem. Now, Abigail Spanberger, I got every day now, or pretty much every single day, I'm getting emails from her asking for money. And it's alarmist, oh my God, I could lose. And yeah, she could lose to Winsome Earl Sears. But be honest with us. So you see this every day. Well, not Thursday. I guess it was every other day now, but 2 on Monday. So Friday, Wednesday, 2 on Monday, Saturday, and then the previous week. Asking me for money, asking for money to help her win. And she sent this kind of a scare chart. Like, here's the chart she sent over the weekend, this past weekend, that supposedly shows, oh my God, I'm losing, or I'm about to lose. I could lose. Look at this. Look at that blue line. It's close to the red. And it's just really, I don't know what, they must have found one poll or they cherry picked the polls to look like that, because that just isn't the way it looks right now. It just isn't the way it looks. So you may see a little bit of overlap, but I'm going to put up right over so you can see the real gap is actually not the way Spanberger shows. So you can see it's not narrowing, right? This is Real Clear Politics. She wants you to think she's in real trouble. But the gap hasn't narrowed since mid-September. If anything, it may have gotten slightly wider for Spanberger. Now, I get it. She wants to raise money. I don't begrudge her sending out. I do begrudge Our Revolution trying to scare you into giving them money for Mamdani when that race isn't close and they're trying to scare you into thinking, oh no, Cuomo could win when the polls don't show that. That I have a problem with. I don't have a problem with Spanberger trying to raise money saying, hey, we're ahead, but it's not over yet. I'm fine with that. But I do have a big problem with her misrepresenting the way the race is going. As you can see, at least according to Real Clear Politics, and they aggregate all the polls, she's actually over 50%. And there's no narrowing. There's no narrowing, at least since early October when the gap was bigger. But then it was smaller in September. So Spanberger's doing fine. And yet she shows this, I believe, dishonest chart. I have a problem with that. Don't do that. That makes me not want to support you at all. And we'll look at the actual numbers here. So again, Spanberger should win. I mean, she might not. You never know. It's not like such a huge gap the way Harry was describing with Mamdani was on that he's definitely going to win unless something really weird has gone wrong with the polls, which of course could happen. But it's not like that with Spanberger. I mean, she has a lead. She seems to be pretty comfortable. You look at all those numbers. She's the averages are over 50%. You get over 50%, you win. Spanberger's at below 43%. Looks like pretty good for Spanberger. The latest poll doesn't look as good, right? That Trafalgar poll. But the problem with that Trafalgar poll, which still has Spanberger up by 4, the problem with that poll is that Trafalgar is a House Republican pollster. So I don't take all of their polls seriously. And if you look at all the other polls, recent polls, which I believe are all credible. Roanoke College, I believe. I'm not sure. CNU, I'm not sure what that is. Suffolk, I don't know what Qantas is. Washington Post has her up by 12. That's the most credible. The other one that I think is very credible, the Roanoke, she's up by double digits. So don't tell us it's a close race. That just makes me question your integrity, your honesty. There is a race that I do think is close. There is a race where it wouldn't be such a shock if the Republican won, if he came from, behind and won. And that's this 25 New Jersey race, Iadarola versus Mikey Sherrill. I think that's a worrisome situation. Now, that said, I'd still rather be Mikey Sherrill. She's still ahead in the polls. And the candidates always, when they're trying to raise money, try to figure out what's going to motivate people, what's going to scare people. But if you look at the latest polling there, yeah, it's close. The latest Fox poll, which Fox is a good pollster, 7+. She's over 50, 52. She's at 50 with Emerson, although that's very tight. Rather be Sherrill in that race. I will call this a relatively short program today. I'm going to beg off. I will hopefully, by the way, folks, it sounds bad, but I am feeling so much better today than I've been feeling. And so I definitely am on the mend, which is good. That's why I just felt like I couldn't not do the show today. I had to do it for you guys. So I did. I have to say, though, I've also enjoyed a little bit of a break, not looking at the news, not nearly as obsessively as I have to when I'm live streaming. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for being part of Halitics. Don't forget, click like, click subscribe, click comment. I need your comments as well. Enjoy your Friday and your weekend. Go, Mom Donnie.